You are listening to the 4-Phase Cycle podcast with your hosts, Megan and Alex of Zesty Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you have come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, we use the 4 phases of the feminine cycle in combination with functional lab work to transform the lives of the women we work with. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own doctor before making changes. Ready to take control of your health? Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to be talking in this podcast about detoxing pitfalls. All right. Make sure you're listening to all these classes in order so that you make sure you understand when we're doing everything, why we're doing everything, and all of the other details that go into it. But I wanted to follow up my last podcast about detoxing tools and all the really fun stuff that you can do. Talking about how to basically pitfalls, how to know if you're detoxing too fast, why that's bad, what to do about it, and all of that other good stuff. All right, so detoxing, this is when in the second half of the cycle, for the third and fourth phases after you've ovulated, that is when detoxing becomes really important because you want to process and metabolize and balance all of the hormones that are being created at this time. And that, again, will set you up for success as the next cycle comes around, and so on and so on and so on as you go cycle to cycle. And one thing that usually happens with detoxing is that people get really excited about it because you can see differences so quickly when you support yourself that they're like, oh, this is actually really fun. The problem comes up a little bit that we are all so primed to have immediate gratification that when we see things happening, even if they're bad, like, oh, I got a rash, or I got some brain fog, or I was really tired, or I got diarrhea, whatever, we see that as a sign that it's working. And what we want is to push it harder and faster, right? Because if you're like, hey, look, I'm detoxing, well, if I have all that stuff, why don't I just detox faster? Or why don't I do more? And here's the thing, that does not work well, because anytime that you see detox symptoms, it's a sign that there are excess toxins that your body is unable to keep up with. So you are giving your body more toxins to process than it can handle. And so it will have detox symptoms because it'll show up on your skin, it'll show up in your gut, it'll show up in your brain, because it's basically you now have a bunch of toxins, chemicals, substances, partially inactivated hormones all floating around in your bloodstream, causing problems because they really shouldn't be there. So that's why it's so important to detox appropriately and gradually and know what kind of symptoms to look out for. So I've named some of them already, but detox symptoms can really range from, I'll say the more common ones first. So stomach upset is really common. So whether that's nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, any kind of sudden change to your abdomen, even just bloating and gas pain, can all happen really fairly frequently when someone's really overloaded. Brain fog and kind of fatigue is another thing. And like I said, that's just because there's things in the bloodstream going to your brain that shouldn't be, more than likely, to our best knowledge. That's why. Rashes happen really frequently. People will get all sorts of kind of pimply pus fill, and they're not even like pus filled, they're fluid filled, kind of, they look like little pimples, but they're local irritation and kind of inflammation of the skin. And then itchy rashes. And then many times you kind of get worse bad breath and bad body odor. And a lot of that, when I have felt good and I've been appropriately supporting my detoxification functions and all of this, I don't really wear deodorant and I don't really worry about like carrying gum around. When I fall off the wagon and when I kind of get overloaded, I immediately notice like, oh girl, you need to get some deodorant and like, do this. It's kind of a sign, but happens so commonly that we see it on almost everybody that they're like, man, I've been detoxing and I've just been stinky. Like, it's just no good. And so those are the more common ones, but it really can be anything. Sometimes people have mood swings, irritability, sleep disturbances, kind of memory fuzziness. What didn't I say already? Some hair loss, kind of dry eyes, dry mouth, things like that. Those common ones are things that you should focus on, but just be aware. You want to, as you go through your cycle, and the whole point of it is to explore and learn your body. You're just learning about the machine that you have that gets you through life, and you're learning how to operate it and run it to the best way possible. So I try to be complete in my list, not because you will get every one of those symptoms, but because I'm giving you lots of things to think about. So you may not connect hair loss to your liver in any sense of the word, or, a rash. You would think, oh, did I touch something? Was there poison ivy or whatever? I want you to broaden out the possibilities of symptoms and just say, not that I want you looking for like every twinge and itch is going to be a symptom, but we just want to understand that even though we're working on one system, that system can cause way different symptoms than we would expect. For example, like a gut infection or gut inflammation, many times or a lot of times those people don't have stomach problems, but they come to us with acne or infertility or something, headaches, something that you wouldn't necessarily think like, oh, of course that's the gut. And then we find something, and we do this in our Healthy Hormones Group program with all our hormone testing. And so a lot of times we just want to be more aware of the depth of symptoms that may present to us and just be aware of them and know to look for them. When we come across problems, there's no way to fix the internal problem of detoxing too fast and having too many toxins exposed to places where they shouldn't be by doing something topically, right? So people get a detox rash and they try to do something for the rash thinking that they're going to help, but that can only temporize it. And I'm actually going to give you some ideas for dealing with these detox symptoms. But what I want you to realize is intervening on the symptoms is just a band-aid fix for that symptom. What you really need to realize is that if that is happening, and especially if it happens severely, like the first time I was really focusing on detoxing, I overshot a little bit and I got some bad itchy rashes. Like I was miserable. It really was pretty miserable. That's how I ended up finding so many solutions to rashes. I know like 18 ways because natural options, because it was really bad. And but you want to recognize that you just need to back off a little bit. So that is towing the line. And for you, you may get detox symptoms just from warm lemon water in the morning. And if that's the case, that is where you are. That's cool. No problem. You don't have to go do every detox tool in the book. At first, you will work up to everything. But, for now, if that's what a little bit of lemon water and you back off and you find an amount that works for you, that's great. Start there. If you've been doing a lot of detox stuff, there's always more work to do. Honestly, Megan and I have been doing this for years, and we still keep finding ways to optimize our detoxification symptoms, optimize our environment. And honestly, life changes so much, your body changes so much, your stress levels change so much that you're always doing a little bit of this work. It, of course, becomes more comfortable, more automatic. Like I have everything. I'm so used to incorporating it into my life, but it's still something that I work on cycle to cycle because it helps me feel so good and helps me just be the person I want to be in the world doing this kind of stuff instead of worrying about every single food I'm eating. And so, yeah, back off is the main point. If you take nothing away from this podcast, but this, please remember that. All of the other things that you will do. So when you get a headache, I really like helping with some inflammation. So I think a lot of that is just irritation in the brain, so brain fog and headaches. I like mixing up a little elixir of tart cherry juice because it's just anti-inflammatory. I'll talk about it again in the anti-inflammatory podcast, but I mix that up. I find that very soothing. I also find that doing a combination of a heat pack across my neck. I lay on the heat pack and a ice across my forehead, like an ice pack. That tends to help brain fog, and I think it just kind of mobilizes stuff around. I mean, again, you're only temporarily helping, but still, you need relief when you feel miserable. If you have headaches, essential oils like mint, camphor, wintergreen. I like doTERRA's past tense on the temples and across the base of the skull, like right where your hair ends. That is really great for that kind of stuff. If you have nausea and vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, you can try ginger tea, just slowly sipping on some ginger tea. You can add honey to it if you're feeling kind of dehydrated. You can also add some Himalayan pink salt. Lots of trace minerals. The salt replaces some of the salt you're losing through diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting and all of that stuff. Your kidneys will respond, so they'll dump out some of that stuff. So it's nice to replace the minerals. That you can do an adrenal cocktail, which Megan learned about from her mentor, and that is collagen, orange juice, raw cream or raw coconut cream, or coconut cream, and Himalayan pink salt as much as you can stand in there. And it's like a creamsicle, those orange pops that used to be around. But it has like a little bit sweet and salty from the Himalayan pink salt. It's really nourishing. It's super good. I like doing that stuff for slow. If orange juice actually upsets your stomach, that happens to me. I like using either something like pomegranate juice, although that's detoxing too, so be careful with that in too high quantities, but a little bit is good. Tart cherry juice again, or green juice. And so I will kind of sip on that as a quote unquote meal replacement. Although Megan and I don't believe in not eating, so nothing replaces meals. But yeah, when you're nauseous and stuff like that, then that's a good way to go. And then for rashes, there's a ton to do as far as soothing things, but I like doing aloe right on it. That feels really, really good on a rash, just fresh aloe. Or you can get the kind of gel in the bottle, but don't get the one that has the preservatives and the thickener in it. Go to someplace that has aloe in the refrigerated section, and that'll be a lot kind of cleaner because you don't want to put on already inflamed tissues. You don't want to be adding all sorts of chemicals to it. You're just going to absorb them more in that area because there's already a bunch of blood flow coming to it. So I'm careful about keeping my ingredients clean anytime I think about rashes. Sometimes witch hazel can help, especially if you've been scratching a ton, because it kind of like cleans off the bacteria that you've introduced there. It doesn't burn as much when you put it on. It's not like cleaning it with rubbing alcohol or something. So that can be really great. I like taking plantain leaves. A plantain is a weed that you can find in your yard. So if it is spring, summer, kind of fallish time, a lot of times common plantain, obviously Google. I can't show you a picture right now, but look it up. Don't find something else and then use it. Find the actual thing I'm talking about. But common plantain is known for, like when I lived in Russia and we would get hurt and we didn't have like band-aids or any other thing, my mom would take the plantain leaves, and they grow everywhere. That plant is like hard as heck to kill. She would like kind of crush it to get all the juice out, and then she would lay it out again. She would try not to break it, and she would use it almost as like a Band-Aid and antiseptic. And it was really great. I find it pretty soothing on rashes as well. And then actually cabbage leaves. This is so Russian of me. Cabbage leaves are really soothing and will help bring down some of that swelling that's happening at the rash. Bentonite clay is really great. What I like to do is like a mud pack of bentonite clay. It will actually help draw out the toxins. There's many clays that you can use. There's pink clay, there's black clay, which is kind of interesting, although that one has to be mixed with another type of clay. And then there's also activated charcoal. So you can play around with all sorts of mud packs for that. So you take, for example, bentonite clay, you put it into a small cup and the powder, and then don't mix with a metal spoon because it kind of inactivates some of the toxin drawing out power that bentonite has clay. Put a little bit of aloe vera juice or just water if that's all you have, or you can brew a tea of something, and you can play around with the nutrients that you deliver to the skin, but basically turn that bentonite clay, you add enough water or whatever liquid that you're using so that it's kind of like a mud, the consistency of mud. And then you take that mud, put it on a washcloth or a cheesecloth or something, and then put that entire thing mud down onto the area that has the rash. And that is actually, I think, the closest thing we could do to actually helping not just the symptoms but resolving the rash, because in theory that clay is going to help draw off the toxins that are available for it to be drawn off from the skin. It kind of depends on what your rash is like, obviously, to the extent it can do that, but hey, I will take that any day when you have a rash that is bothering you, so for sure. And most of these things can be used if you have a large area of rash. These things can be used over larger areas. There's some over-the-counter stuff that if you end up going that route because you're just that miserable and you really just want something, then make sure that you're checking with your doctor about the area. And then anytime you're using plants, check with whoever takes care of you, whoever your provider is, before you start doing all the supplements and everything. Make sure that you, for your own personal health, know what you have going on so that you can make informed, smart decisions. All right. Okay, so that is that as far as actually intervening on some of the more common symptoms and what you can do if you're feeling miserable. But don't forget, the thing with detoxing is that if you are pushing it too hard, you will stress out the body, you will cause a cortisol response, and that kicks the liver from maintenance mode, which is helping make clotting factors that help you stop bleeding when you cut yourself. It's making all sorts of sugar when you're sleeping at night. That's the thing that makes you not get hypoglycemic. It's churning through all the toxins you're exposed to. It's doing it. But then when it goes into emergency mode, there is a whole other cascade of things that it needs to do to make sure that you can mount the response to fight off that bear, not get in that car accident, deal with that stressful work deadline, or maybe you're just freaking out about that incident that happened a year and a half ago and you still are angry about it. Whatever it is, external or from in between your ears, that kind of stress response will impact the body. Okay, and so you want to, not only just because you're like, oh, I want to be zen, I want to be, it's literally you just don't want to be pushing yourself into a stress response, because that will tank your health, pretty darn quickly. The body's just not made to sustain that stress response for that long. And it ultimately will have to compromise with other functions. And those are usually functions we really want, like feeling sexy, feeling happy, being active, being able to have children, all of that stuff. So that is that for today. Make sure you stop by for the next class, which is going to be all about inflammation and kind of the inflammation tools, the same that we talked about detox tools, and we'll get into all of the fun stuff there. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. I so love doing these for you, and I'm really excited to be sharing and teaching this stuff about women's health. So thank you for being with me. All right, guys. I'll catch you next time.
Hey, thanks for stopping by this Podclass. If you are ready to dig deeper into your health, really understand your cycle, stop guessing with random supplements, and start testing, our Healthy Hormones group starts September 27th. You can find more details at zestyginger.com/healthy hormones and find out if this is the place for you. And as always, we offer free 20-minute consultations, so jump on the phone with us and we'll help you decide if it's a good fit.